I can make it there. I'll make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York, New York.
How we doing, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast here on Facebook Live and YouTube. We are in the war room. It is mock draft time. We are doing a 2-round mock draft. And the way this goes is basically we pick every other pick. And, Zappy's a Cowboy fan. Idris and I obviously are Giant fans. So when we get on the clock for the New York Football Giants, we will be discussing it. And we are going to have discussions about each and every pick, and I will be posting each and every pick down in the banner box so you guys can see it up on the ticker. I gotta say, gentlemen, this is the first time in a long time that I actually think you could possibly not know who's going to be the number one pick. That intro was kind of weak. Let me start that shit over. Mike Zappy, San Antonio, Texas. Idris Salam, a.k.a. Bosco from the Bronx. Let's fucking go. All right. I'm excited because right after this, that means the NFL schedule release is right on its heels. And then we can start figuring out the games we're going to try to attend.
Right on.
Depending on what kind of year we have, figure what we're going to be spending later in the year, so that also kind of weighs in on this. But without further ado, we're going to start this draft. Who's got the one pick? Who's going? Oh, yeah. Yes, sir.
Your mother gave it to me.
I like it. Yeah,
she
Mom
just made it
does good
upside
work,
down.
man.
That's the only thing.
All right. Zap, you want to start this up at 1?
No, I want the number 2 pick.
All right, Idris, with the number 1 pick, the Tennessee Titans select
Cam Ward, quarterback, Miami, Florida.
All right, no shock there.
You act like they need a quarterback or something. They have Will Levis. They're good.
Yeah, right. That's Kenny Pickett.
Yeah. Hey, no, it's Kenny Pickett's time to shine over here in Cleveland, Ohio.
Right.
I think honestly that's where the draft starts this year is the number 2 pick.
Yeah.
Cleveland, I could see going multiple ways. I could see them going Shador. I could see them going Abdul Carter, and I could see them going Travis Hunter. I think of Cleveland. I think of who their head coach is.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to go against all odds, and I think they're going to take Abdul Carter, number 2, to have him team up with Myles Garrett on the outside. And you have a wrecking force like that on the outside, you don't need very good defensive backs.
Right on.
So
it's a logical pick. The only way that I see the Titans not taking this player is if they got a king's ransom to move backward. But most important position in today's NFL is the quarterback position. So really a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned that you got to go get Cam Ward, especially because outside of that interesting yogurt commercial, Will Levis just hasn't been delivered.
And I think
his wife's delivered more, or his ex-girlfriend.
Right. I think Cam Ward is a good pick for Tennessee. And I think with Shador, I just feel Shador needs another year. And he brings the circus with him. And, I mean, a lot of people, you're hating. No, he's gonna bring a circus with him because his father. We already see the jersey retirement ceremony, which I don't think he did enough to get it. I mean, you got Cordell Stewart, you got Darian Hagan, you got Eric Bieniemy, you got Sal on this. He rest in peace. You even got Ray Caruth, even though his the stuff that went on. But I think Cam Ward is a safe pick quarterback wise. I think he's more seasoned than Shador.
Yeah, I tend to
I agree. That's why, to piggyback off of you, Idris, talking about Shador, when you talk about what he's bringing with him, that extra baggage, and I think of the teams that can handle that and where he can handle it as well. That's why it makes a lot of sense for New York, because you have the New York media there, but Shador's the kind of guy. He's got the best training in the world from his father that will know how to handle that media just fine. I mean, you just look at all his interviews leading up to this week's NFL draft.
Yeah,
he's been giving very confident answers, and obviously a lot of us see what he's done on the field, but when you talk about it from the perspective of dealing with the media, that guy's aced it.
Yeah.
I mean, his whole life essentially, even though Prime was already past his playing days, Shador has still seen him in the professional realm, whether it was at NFL Network when he was doing that for a little while, when he was believing in Eli, or just making his ascension into the coaching world. He goes to HBCU, puts them on the map, really just shows his worth as a coach, takes a Colorado program that was kind of in flux and really made them must-see TV, win or lose. And, Coach Prime now among the highest-paid coaches in the country.
I don't want to interrupt you, but he did good at Jackson State. I'm going to say good at Jackson State because Southern still crushed him 2 years straight in the championship. They still couldn't beat the Jaguars in Southern. So, and you couldn't name one person on the Southern Jaguars team. But both times they crushed Jackson State. And that's why it goes back to me saying about the jersey, when you got the championship at Jackson State, you got your ass whooped. You went to the next level. Your record was 13-12. You're not ranked in you're not in the top 10 in passing any categories in Colorado. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We hadn't picked him yet, but we'll see where he goes.
That's crazy,
and we're talking about the Giants picks in a way.
Yeah,
this is actually a good conversation because we're on the Giants.
Right.
Last thing I want to say about Cam Ward, phenomenal talent, checks out all the boxes.
Yeah,
but playing for stats and not for his teammates. Zappy and I have talked about this. We've talked about this on the show.
Yeah,
I would say it is the one legitimate red flag. It's not going to be the first collegiate player that came in with that kind of flag and then had a phenomenal pro career. But Tennessee is definitely in need of that. And so we're going to find out how this plays out at pick number 2.
One more thing about Cam Ward. My only thing that I worry about him is when you look at the level of competition.
In the ACC, yes.
That was the same thing with Caleb Williams.
Yep.
It was the level of competition, but then you had Jaden Daniels, who was shining at every level. He on his way to a Heisman.
Yeah.
We don't have that quarterback this year.
Nope.
That's the only thing about Cam Ward, because my big thing with Cam Ward is his competition level. I mean, this guy started off here in San Antonio playing at UIW. Right. And then, obviously he's moved on from team to team. This is kind of him and Shador have the same story if you really look at it. It was that play, him walking off the field because he got that record, that really makes me question his character. What kind of player is he going to be like in the fourth quarter when the game's on the line, but you're trailing by 6 points or something like that, Yeah. That's my only concern with Cam Ward.
I'm with you on that.
Brett Bandick dropping in. My niece is sick. My goddaughter Maddie is sick, but I want the Pats' first pick to be an offensive lineman.
Well, if you were here, you'd be able to do it, Brett. But this is our mock draft.
And since you're not here,
we can send you the link.
At pick 4, it's looking like a punter, if you ask me.
I mean,
the Pats are going to go to Rutgers and find themselves a punter.
Richie had a good pick for you guys. I get the Patriots right now, so we're going to see where we're going to go with this one.
Yeah.
A lot's going to depend on what Richie does here at number 3.
All right, but pick 2, Idris Salam, you are picking for the Cleveland Browns.
Oh shoot.
How you feeling?
Oh, I thought I took Abdul.
Oh, you did take Abdul Carter?
Yeah, he took Abdul. Yeah, he took Abdul. Yeah.
I'm sorry, bro.
I lined it up so that way you would fall on 3.
Idris picked first. We were round robin the conversation that I actually forgot that that you actually picked for them first.
No. So that's why it's on you. That's your pick right now determines Brett's fate.
All right, so this is where we have fun.
That's what I was saying. We're on the Giants pick right now. You got 2 guys that we know your organization is looking at very heavily. We have one guy that you guys have been invested in dating back to, I think, his junior year at Colorado. I mean, the New York Giants have put in a lot of work with Shedeur Sanders. And then you have Travis Hunter, the guy who I talked to Richie about earlier today. What makes him a top 5 player in this year's draft? He's not the best cornerback. He's not the best wide receiver, but he's the best two-way player in this draft. And if you're a team that's not going to draft him and allow him to play 2 ways, you're kind of wasting him. You know, look at it that way, because I think he's the 2nd best cornerback, maybe even 3rd best cornerback in this draft, and probably like the 3rd best receiver or 4th best receiver in this draft. But it's just the fact that he could do both at a very high level. That's what makes him a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
No, it's valid, dude. It's actually quite valid. Idris, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Zappy's points about Hunter, our necessitable issue with not having a franchise quarterback. How do you feel about this? You want to go Hunter?
I'm going
Hunter.
Try
to trade back up into the draft?
I would want to trade down, but if I'm picking Hunter. I'm picking Hunter because we got a veteran. We got 2 veterans. Even if we traded one veteran, we got 2 veterans. We got Russell Wilson. We got Jameis. True, they're not like they're not the quarterbacks that's going to lead us to 10, 11, 12 victories, or who knows. But they got that veteran leadership, and we got a lot of holes we got to fill. And I feel Travis Hunter fills a void. He can play defense, he can play offense, he can run back kicks. So he's a Swiss Army knife, man. So
I like the idea of him being opposite of Paulson Adebo, because I personally think that if Shedeur slides, the Giants could potentially trade back into round 1 and still select Shedeur Sanders with the 3rd pick.
Wait 1 second. Hold on. I got one more thing for you guys, though. I have a trade for you before we move forward, because as we know, Brett just said it himself. If he's number 4, he wants offensive line. Obviously, that's Will Campbell. I have the Jets on the phone.
Okay.
I have the Jets on the phone because they too need themselves an offensive lineman. We know how they've been struggling, but are they going to sit back and watch Will Campbell go? And where they're going to be stuck with Membois or even Kelvin Banks, who Kelvin Banks they view as a guard, Membois more as a right tackle? Or are they going to pull the trigger and give the Giants a trade that is going to put you guys in position that where maybe Shedeur falls back to you at 7? But what I have here, guys, I have the New York Jets offering you guys number 7, number 73, and a 5th round pick. I'm sorry, not that one. Hold on, I had it right here.
7 and 42.
Yeah, 7 and 42. Thank you. 7 and 42.
I'm taking it.
Rich?
I'm taking it.
We're just wrapping it up right now. And with the number 3 pick,
would you guys stick
in the NFL draft? We're going to propose that.
So who we trading with? We trading with the Jets?
You're trading back to number 7 with the New York Jets.
The Jets, okay.
And then the Jets moving up to get ahead of New England.
Okay.
To go take the best offensive lineman available in Will Campbell.
Okay.
Which would now put the New York Jets on the clock. If you guys want to take that trade.
I'll take the trade.
Now, oddly enough, it's getting rejected here.
Yeah, it's going to require a lot more because if you look at the points, it's going to be 742 and probably a second next year and 110. Those 4 spots because you're going from outside the top 5 into the top 3. That's a premium haul that you're going to have to give up.
Yeah, because it won't let us.
So give away 2 your first or their first, their second, their fourth next year's second. And it'll approve the trade.
Yeah, we're getting 742 and 73 in exchange for the 3 pick.
Okay, yeah. So there you go.
The New York Jets are selecting offensive tackle Will Campbell out of LSU.
There we go, and that's why. And I think something like that needs to happen for the Jets because when I look at the Giants, I think they're in a prime position to move back where they could still get what they need because the Patriots, we know they don't need a quarterback. Right. The Jaguars, we know they don't need a quarterback. The Raiders.
So we're going 742, 73, and what else?
Yeah, we get 742 and 73, and we are giving up pick 3.
Okay, it rejects it on mine. For our number 3, it rejected over here.
Just give it multiple first-round picks, and then it'll approve because we don't got to worry about those right now.
All right. Got him.
All right. So pick 4.
The Patriots. All right. So now here the Patriots are hitting themselves. What the hell just happened? This is an interesting one, man, because they have Travis Hunter on the board. I mean, this guy's slipped to them. They need a receiver. They need a cornerback. They need both.
They need a receiver.
I think
and Armand Membois is still on the board as well.
Yeah, he's still there. And I think the Patriots are a team that are hoping Jalen Carter slips to them. And I think that will be their pick, no questions asked. But when I look at what the Patriots really need, I mean, can you really pass on Travis Hunter here?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Can you pass on Ashton Genty, who will definitely improve your backfield? And we talk about who their head coach is right now. Ashton Genty is like Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Can we really see them passing, like giving Ramondre the ball again? Like the guy's got fumbling problems. What do you guys think?
I agree. I think he's – I agree. I
think I would still strongly consider the dual threat, but Genty in that offense takes a lot of pressure off the quarterback, second-year quarterback.
It takes a lot. Honestly, I think it's going to end up being Travis Hunter. If Travis Hunter falls to you, if Abdul Carter falls to you, you kind of have to. Will Campbell's off the board. Either you could try to orchestrate a trade back to get Armand Membois where it's not so much reaching, because that to me now is reaching for Armand Membois. You go Travis Hunter. I'm going to say the Patriots go Travis Hunter in this situation.
Yeah, I think that's a universal agreement there. And with the 4th pick, that is exactly what's going down.
I'm still trying to get this trade to go through. The Giants and the Jets, man. It keeps denying me, man.
Are you selecting? So do the number 3 pick from New York, and do from the Giant or the Jets do their first 3, and then do a first round and a second round next year also.
From the Jets or from the Giants?
And give them the old VCR too.
Okay, got it. Yeah, they can watch the Joe Namath Super Bowl.
Oh boy,
I love that. Especially digitized. It's still rejected. Hey.
The Joe Namath Super Bowl as opposed to any other one.
You guys realize that they're the only franchise at all 4 professional sports that did not make the playoffs during our last Pope's time?
Yeah, that's a different kind of futility.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
In the words of Pete Davidson, the Jets are never coming back. All right. Jacksonville Jaguars are on the clock, and they have the 5 pick. Some needs, tight end, cornerback, offensive tackle, wide receiver, defensive tackle. I think that they would have been very excited about the prospect of Hunter being there. He obviously is not. This could be where you see Genty go, potentially. I think the two players that make the most sense for Jacksonville here are either Will Johnson or Ashton Genty. I would suggest Genty for the simple fact that, similar to what Zappy said about Membois going to the Patriots, I think Johnson, even though he's possibly the best cover corner in the whole draft, could be a bit of a reach here. You're getting a generational talent in Genty if you go that way. And the Jaguars have been looking for the next guy at the running back position to really just solidify himself as the Alpha 1A. That would be my pick. I would take Genty here.
Yeah, when I look at this Jaguars team, I think it's between three guys, honestly. I think Ashton Genty is a very strong possibility, especially with Dallas being linked to Travis Etienne.
Yeah.
I look at Mason Graham. I think he is a humongous possibility. I mean, that's a match made in heaven. That's going to allow their two edge rushers to really get off the ball and not have to face as many double teams. So really, you ask yourself, what's more important right now to the success of the Jacksonville Jaguars? Personally, I think they need to, if they can go out and get Ashton Genty into that offense, I think Trevor Lawrence will finally be able to take that next step, because nothing against Travis Etienne, he's just not the same kind of running back.
No.
You know, this will be the first time Lawrence is actually getting a bell cow like that. So I think Ashton Genty,
the best version of himself the last couple of years either.
No, he really has not.
Yeah.
So
he really got
I
overworked
agree.
that 1 year, and even go back to college with some of the injuries.
I was never sold on Trevor Lawrence coming out of college, man. I'll be honest with you. I was, the way his career is going right now is what I thought it would be. I wasn't sold on him.
They paid him, so they got to take that pressure off.
That's the other thing, and I keep alluding to that Deshaun Watson deal really busting up the quarterback market and getting middle of the road guys, or guys that maybe just had one awesome season, the big money. And it's still a bargain when you're looking at some of these other deals now. And as much as the Daniel Jones thing got laughed out of the water, even that was a bargain if you think about it, because the Giants are still able to recoup some of that. But so are we in agreement here? Ashton Genty to Duval.
Yep.
Wow. That's good. I think that's going to be the first surprise.
Yeah.
But look at this.
I'll be honest. I think they're going to take Graham, man.
I think it's between Mason and Genty, but I really feel that it's heating up with Genty going to Jacksonville.
And this draft is so deep with defensive linemen. That's the other thing.
And the Raiders
it's very deep with running backs too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Raiders might try to move up, because I know, like I said, Genty fits Pete Carroll, man. That's a Pete Carroll running back right there. That's a beast mode guy,
It is. It really is. But they just said, well, if you want a Pete Carroll beast mode, you go after Damian Martinez, the running back out of Miami. He's exactly like Marshall.
Oh yeah, he's a bruiser. Yeah, he's a bruiser.
Yeah, you can get that man.
He's a bruiser. So
yeah.
No, I love it, man. The Raiders, though, I don't think they're going to trade up. I don't think they're taking a running back with their first pick, considering all the amount of holes they have. I think when you look at the Raiders, I think they want to go receiver. I think they want to go defensive line. I think they want to go secondary. I don't even think Shador is who they're going to go right here, because you brought in Geno Smith. Yeah. So that's your 2 to 3 year window. If you don't see the quarterback you want this year, next year's class is a lot stronger.
Yeah,
a lot stronger. You go and you start building your team for the quarterback. In this case, if I'm the Raiders, oh man, I got to go Mason Graham here.
Mm.
I'm not.
I don't know what you guys think about that.
I'm going Graham
or Will Johnson for me.
Yeah, Will Johnson's the other one, but I think with the Raiders and Will Johnson, this, I think, is a prime position for teams that need to trade up and get a wide receiver, 49ers being one of them. Will they get a receiver? They've been linked to Matthew Golden. Dallas, will they trade up? Because I think the Panthers and the Saints are two teams that are going to go receiver. The Giants, it's setting up where they might go Shador here. Who knows? Or you guys might go Will Johnson. But you look at the team. They're not going to take receivers, my point.
No.
The Colts, they're a team that might be trying to trade up to get tight end Tyler Warren, and you might have to get him high this time in this draft. You know, everyone felt.
Yeah, because the Colts, man, you know they signed Daniel Jones, man. They're gonna need.
They need a tight end.
Starting by
They're gonna
October.
need a tight end when he take over
He'll
for.
Be starting by October.
Yeah, he'll be starting. I say by week 7 he'll be starting.
So you guys think the Raiders are staying put?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I'm going Graham with them.
I think they're gonna
one way or the other. It's either gonna be Johnson or Graham.
Yeah, I'm going Graham.
I'm going Mason Graham with them.
Yeah,
you know, the best teams always build. Philadelphia Eagles, for example, build from the inside out. They win in the trenches. They have drafted early guys, first round for years now, and we see what they're doing. The Raiders, you know, it's a fresh start organization. You think about what he had in that defense. He usually had himself a good defensive tackle.
He carries the defensive guy.
Graham comes in, and I think that's where you get Mason Graham. Don't reach for Shador because you know you're a team that can actually. You're not going to win the division. Second, maybe third, maybe that division is going to be tough next year. Very, very tough.
The other get your quarterback next year.
Yeah. So I think we're all in agreement then, right? Mason Graham.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm going Graham.
All right, Idris Salam. We are back to our New York Giants. I think it's Shador right now because I think you could feel comfortable taking Shador because you got some value in the Jet deal. The Jets are making this a little more easier for us to do this now.
Yeah, I'm going to go Shador right here. He's not the guy I want, me personally, but I think the Giants to go Shador. He's not. I'm just not sold on him, man. But I think the Giants will grab him right here.
Well, the beauty of it, you have a couple of veterans in the building where you don't have to throw them in the fire right away.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
But we got Dion. His boy's sitting on the bench. That's.
I'm gonna send you guys something different. Where I think if you guys trade back, what could possibly happen?
I'm thinking trade back for real.
No, you might not trade. I don't think you trade back again because you guys already have 10 draft picks in this draft, but you acquired some strong equity in the trade to trade back to 7, where you take possibly an Armand Mambois, secure that offensive line. You take a Will Johnson, secure that secondary. You take Tyler Warren. Imagine Tyler Warren and Malik Neighbors together. That would be a lot. Or even Colston Loveland. And then you trade up with your 2 second-round picks. You're going to be able to throw a nice ransom to a team like Richie's been talking about, Seattle, to move back into the top 20 and draft Shador. Because if Shador falls past the Saints here, you have the Steelers.
The only other team you would have to worry about is the Pittsburgh Steelers, who pick after Seattle. Seattle is definitely a team that could take him.
I think the Steelers will be the one to pick him if he falls that far down. I think the Steelers will be the one. If not,
I can see the Giants swooping in and potentially jumping the Steelers to try to get Shador there. But honestly, the reason I wouldn't take Mambois here, because you already passed on 2 potential generational talents at pick 3, where you could have had either Campbell or Hunter or Genty for that matter. So, you know, the Giants aren't going to do the great running back early just because of the value pick in terms of the Saquon thing. You know, the Giants don't get a quarterback here, people are going to riot. And I'm not going to sit here and say that Shador is definitely that guy, but he's the best of what's available. Therefore, I think the Giants pull the trigger and get Shador Sanders here.
Yeah, I agree.
And man,
I'd rather have Colston, man. Loveland, I'd rather have him, to be honest with you. If I'm going
there's a lot of things I'd do differently if I was running it completely, but I'm trying to keep it a little more realistic also on the way that we're probably going to.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I think trading back and still getting the quarterback, it's a win-win on a lot of levels. And, you know, you take a guy like Carter, let's say if he was the 3 pick and not, you know, Hunter being available there. You know, there's some injury concerns with Carter that could give people a little bit of a fear of, oh, shit, LeVar Arrington. You know, people will start thinking about stuff like that, you know. But, you know, it doesn't matter how much homework you do or how healthy guys are or even how injured guys were. You know, the pro career could just completely be different from everything that ever happened prior to it. It could either be worse, it could either be better, it could be about the same. But one of the best offensive linemen still on the board in Membois. You got a great tight end in Warren. It's getting interesting right now, but the Carolina Panthers are on the clock, and the Panthers, they need help in a lot of different places.
Yeah.
They need help in the secondary. They were one of the worst teams at sacking the quarterback last year.
Mm-hmm.
We saw Bryce Young make good strides as the season went along. They traded Mingo to us. Yay. They need.
I thought that was Johnny Ringo. That was Johnny Mingo? I thought they traded you Johnny Ringo because I know that.
I would have taken Johnny Ringo too. I've been
Jerry's a lover of westerns. I just assumed that.
It made sense. But no, you look at this Panthers team, there's so many directions you can go here. Yeah. So many directions. And I honestly, if I'm the Panthers, the big thing I'm down to two positions: wide receiver, and I'm down to defensive end. Jalen Walker helps solve a lot of their pass rush issues last year.
Yeah.
I mean, you traded away Brian Burns, so we kind of expected this.
Yeah.
We expected them to decline, but I mean, they declined a lot.
Yeah.
And the other guy I'm looking at for them would be wide receiver. I think, even Will Johnson. I think it's a three horse race for this team, but I think Carolina, it would be in their best interest to go after a Jalen Walker.
You gotta get a guy under rookie control to replace your previous superstar there. I tend to agree. I think Walker's too good of a pick.
Yeah, he is. That's the way I look at it. I mean, this team needs help on so many levels, but you could still get a receiver early in the second round. You could still get a deep cornerback early in the second round. Like, I think in this position, you go out there and you get yourself the best edge rusher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one.
I think it's Walker.
Jalen Walker, number 8. All right.
Georgia Bulldogs.
Yep.
I like this. This is all right. Just kind of go at our own pace. Give these people an education here. All right. The New Orleans Saints are on the clock. We talked about it.
Who that?
We're all in agreement on one level or another that more than likely the Saints are going to take a wide receiver here or a guy who catches the football like a wide receiver. So I would say it's either Tyler Warren or Tatoria McMillan here. I think those are the two most logical picks for the Saints. I mean, they could go Will Johnson because they did lose both of their corners. One of them's a Giant. One of them's a Commander now. So you could go Will Johnson here. That would be, in my opinion, the most logical way to go. Either Will Johnson or one of the two fantastic receivers, whether it be tight end Tyler Warren, wide receiver McMillan. I think those are the three most logical here.
Yeah, I'm going McMillan, man. They need a receiver. Because
Michael Thomas is still healing from his toe.
Yeah, he's been healing for about 20 years.
Oh my God. It was a saga.
Yeah, and
Chris Olave is not a true number one. Let's face it.
You said who?
Chris Olave, I like the player, but he's not a true number one.
Nah, he's a 1B. He's a Devontae Smith. He's a T. Higgins.
Yeah. T. Higgins is like the highest crest of the 1B.
And with Kellen Moore,
it would be
okay. That.
No, I was just gonna say he would be like the 1BC.
Yeah. And Kellen Moore already said that basically he's rolling with Derek Carr because we already see
he's been living with Devontae, working with Devontae.
Yeah,
they're eating together.
His season's over.
Yeah, I know.
His season's over.
You talking about
Derek Carr?
Oh, Carr?
Yeah, his season's pretty much over because he had that news that came out a few days ago about his shoulder that was probably going to force him. Yeah, it's going to force him to miss the season.
They might draft the quarterback. Oh no, they got Spencer Rattler. They're not going to go. They're not going to.
Yeah, they're going to. what they're going to do is try to win less than 4 games this year and load up again.
Yeah, it might be. Hey, but I trust Kellen Moore, man. I trust Kellen Moore. I think he'll work with Rattler to make him. Because Rattler he wasn't great last year. Of course, he wasn't that great. Bad. I mean, you gotta look at where he was drafted anyway. And but he showed flash, and I think he needs a guy like Kellen Moore to tutor him and teach him how to be a quarterback. I think he'll do better. But yeah, the Saints out, 6 games maybe. But they might try to tank it so they can build.
If they still had their defense intact, I would give them 6. But now I can't even do that. I think they're going to be among the 3 or 4 worst teams.
I was just giving them 6. I don't see them winning.
Even with that scandal, that little bizarre scandal that they had going on.
Yeah, they might win 4 games, man.
They're going to be, if Arch Manning comes out next year, in prime position to acquire Arch Manning.
That would make a lot of sense. And, taking a full circle back to the first Manning that played in the NFL, Archie, and the guy, his namesake. So, yeah, that would make a lot of sense. But I think we're all in agreement here. We're going McMillan?
McMillan, yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, because I don't want him.
Yeah,
I'm not a big fan. Look, Ted McMillan's a nice receiver.
Yeah.
I don't like the comparisons of Mike Evans to Mike Evans because this guy Mike Evans has got one of the best separation rates in the NFL. Ted McMillan cannot separate.
McMillan runs the risk of being another guy, as you said, a 1B. We'll find out.
I don't even think he's going to be a 1B.
I don't think he's going to be a 1B.
I think when I look at Ted McMillan, I think of Carlos Rogers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna be a Drake London. I don't think he's gonna be that good. Like I don't trust receivers out of the University of Arizona at all. And I mean, the kid can't separate. Got great hands. Those 50-50 balls, he better be winning more than 50% of them because he's 6'4".
Big dude.
But it's just when you can't separate in the NFL, that leads to a lot of drop balls because you're going to have 2 defenders on you knowing what you're going to do. This reminds me of Kelvin Benjamin.
Yes.
Big guy. Kelvin Benjamin. Yeah.
Yep. Big guy can run, but he couldn't separate.
Former New York Giants practice squad great.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had all the tools at one point. It just never came completely together.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. There's this kid, Ted McMillan, is one of the ones that I've been sounding the alarm on. Do not draft. Stay away from. Yeah. I'm worried that he's going to be there at 12, but I trust Will McClay. He's done nothing but do us right in the drafts.
That's when Gettleman was on that. If you played for the Panthers at one time or another when I was there, you have a chance to play for these guys. He brought in Jonathan Stewart when he was on his last leg. He reached out to Ray Caruth to find out how many years he had left on his sentence, but Caruth was still kind of
right.
All right.
God damn you, Dave Gettleman. All right, Chicago Bears are on the board. They can go a few different ways. They can trade back. They can go Will Johnson. I think the pick for these guys is to fortify that offensive line to keep Deron Williams' nephew healthy. Caleb. Did you know that, Zappy, right? You knew that was his uncle?
Yeah, I was the one that told you, remember?
I think you did, yes. Because I said, who does this guy look like? Who does this guy? And it took me a minute. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, I went
and replaced John Stockton in Utah.
Yeah, because we were talking about him, and that's when I started digging. I was like, oh my God.
Gave me the confirmation. I was like, yeah, it makes sense.
I remember that.
Uncle, but he could pass for his father.
Yeah.
So you think they should go Armand Membois here?
You could go Tyler Warren. That's a dynamic weapon.
That's where I think the Jets might be leaning. I'm sorry, the Bears. Yeah. I think that's where the Bears might be leaning. Well, they have Cole Kmet, but they could possibly give us something we haven't seen since Aaron Hernandez and Gronkowski.
Yeah,
and that's 2 real good young tight ends. Because if you put Tyler Warren in that offense with Caleb Williams, I mean, one thing he needs a reliable tight end, that drop down guy. He's got that in Cole, but then he needs the other one that could be over the middle, a Brock Bowers style, which is Tyler Warren. I think the Bears should be looking at 2 players before offensive tackle. I think it's Tyler Warren and Ashton Genty. If they cannot trade up for Ashton Genty, I think they need to make sure they solidify their pick with Tyler Warren.
Mm-hmm.
Give Caleb another weapon.
Yeah.
You know, you have DJ Moore back. You have their first round wide receiver that they took last year. Keenan Allen is gone. He didn't really contribute much to that offense as the season went along.
Keenan Allen is a couple of hiccups away from being out of the league.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, he's going to find the team after the draft. But going back to the Bears, I think if you bring in a guy like Tyler Warren, I think that helps out so much in your run game because he's a good blocking tight end.
Mm-hmm.
He's the better blocking tight end between him and Colston Loveland. And then he's the guy that can go out and catch the ball. Team up with Cole Kmet, a guy that can line up in the slot. Give me Tyler Warren, man. That's the direction I think the Bears should go here at 10.
Yeah, because I see Warren the type of guy.
You sold me on that. You sold me.
Yeah. Because Warren is the type of guy block, jump off the line. You know, like hit the block 2-3 yards, boom, hit him right there, right over the middle, right in the flat. You know, yeah, and that'll help Kmet because you know Kmet does his thing. Yeah, he's a good guy to do like hooks, button hook. Well, we used to call them button hooks. I don't know what they call them now, but you know, like button hooks, go down 3 or 4 steps or 3 or 4 yards, turn around, but throw your block first, or just you know, lean on the block just to hold the guy up, and then break off. You know,
it's
like Kerry Kittle.
It's
like
an
Kerry
easy
Kittle.
Target. It's a security blanket. It's a good blocker. It's an extra blocker when you want to play the short yardage game. But Zappy does make a good point. It's a huge compliment that the Bears would have an advantage on over so many other teams in the league.
And they could also go out and because they're drafting, they still have other picks. Remember, they did perform a big draft or to acquire Caleb, but also got stuff in return. This team can get an offensive tackle in their second or third round. You already invested very heavily in the offseason by trading for Joe Thuney and trading for Jonah Jackson. Like you went and fixed that line. And like you guys said, an extra blocker, Tyler Warren, put him over there with Chicago. Let's hear those fans chanting for that one.
And not to mention that the draft's going to be in Green Bay.
Yeah.
Oh God. Man,
yeah.
Oh man, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, I did too. That's gonna be something.
I got to see who is the speaker for the Bears.
Woo.
You guys, it's Jason Sehorn for you guys.
I don't know.
It's gonna be good.
Who would be the speaker for the Bears though?
I'm gonna look. I know it's Jason Sehorn for you guys. Yeah, and I forgot.
It wouldn't surprise me if they invite Urlacher or maybe go a little more old school.
I don't think they'll go Urlacher because Urlacher got in some stuff with that political stuff, and they kind of distance themselves from him.
Maybe Hester?
Huh? Maybe Devin Hester.
Devin Hester could be a good look for that.
Yeah. Maybe
10
Devin
Hester. Tyler Warren, Penn State.
Yep, Tyler Warren. Yep.
All right. So with the 11th pick. All right, the Niners are on the clock. Sheds, boys. Zappy's favorites.
Whew. Boy, now this is tough with them because you got to pay Brock Purdy. He wants good money. I mean, he doesn't even want the money that most quarterback. He don't want the $60-70 million, but they don't. They sound like they don't want to pay.
But you still got to keep him somewhere respectable within the market.
What?
What happened?
It's Des White that is speaking for the Bears.
What?
Des White. He was drafted back in 2000, the third round.
Yeah.
Des White is speaking for the Bears.
They could have found a lot of other
Green
people.
Green Bay has Mason Crosby. So we saw what what's his name did from the Eagles.
Oh yeah, that was.
He got them fired up.
I was there for that one.
Yeah,
I have it recorded on my phone.
and drafted Dallas Goedert. That's the funny thing about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they traded ahead of Dallas to draft Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that was juicy on like 3 different levels.
But Des White, man, they could have found somebody else, man.
Yeah, with all due respect. I mean, shit, they could have brought in Emery Moorhead.
Yeah, anyone. They could freaking Gary Fensick or somebody, you know. Bring Eddie Payton, Walter Payton's brother. Be like, hey, I want you to.
Hey, bro, Ditka's still alive?
Yeah, they distance themselves from Ditka too.
Yeah, I know. Most people have. Ditka's distance.
Mike Singletary.
Most people. He doesn't really.
Mike Singletary.
Mike Singletary.
A lot of people could have came in there,
Yeah, it is what it is.
I mean, just give Jim McMahon a cue card, because he can't remember the whole day. Let me read a cue
Took
card.
too many hits. Yeah, Jim took too many hits. San Francisco 49ers around the clock.
They need a lot.
Yeah. If they want to keep that window open. Membois could be the pick here. Will Johnson could be the pick here. I think it's Will Johnson personally. I really do.
Yeah.
I think it's Will Johnson.
Yeah.
You look at.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Idris. Go ahead.
No, that was agreeing. I was agreeing with you guys. Yeah.
I mean, look at what's going on in that division. Look what's going on in the conference. They need a guy that you could have faith in that not only is a day one starter, but by the conclusion of year one, similar to like a Sauce Gardner, the way that me and Zappy expected him to be. And, Brett was not happy on that AFC's preview. But I think Will Johnson has the capabilities to be that next real shutdown guy in the league for the better part of 7 to 10 years. I think he's going to have that kind of career.
Yeah.
He showed me a lot. He showed me a lot, even in a transition year for Michigan.
They're going to have to have someone back there because they've lost so much on offense. Well, both sides of the ball, actually. And I always feel like when you lose a lot on offense, you better show up your defense because, you got to get them. You got to get the defense off the field. So you need, golly, Niners, man. They're just, damn. Yeah, you got to go corner, man. You have to.
Yeah, and the defense has not been what it was.
Right.
It's not at that level when they were in the Super Bowl 2 of the last 5-6 years. It has fallen off gradually.
Yeah.
Zap, what do you think?
With the 49ers, I think there's three specific ways you can go with this one. I'm going to give you all three. I'm going to give you reasons why for all of them. All right. The Niners we saw during the offseason, they lost a lot, especially on the defensive side of the ball. It was not a fire sale because they are getting ready to pay Brock Purdy. That leads me to this gentleman right here. You traded away Deebo Samuel.
Mm-hmm.
He, Mr. Do-It-All. Can the 49ers sit back and think to themselves that, hey, at this time around, we'll take a defender, and the next time around, we'll take this year's Deebo Samuel and Luther Burden? Mm-hmm. That's a risk. That's a risk. Are they willing to take it? So I look at this 49er team. They have the 11th pick, the 43rd pick, and the 75th pick, and the 100th pick. They have ammo to move around.
If they wanted to wait on corner, if you wait to 43, you could return with our man from Notre Dame, Benjamin Morrison.
Absolutely. I think when I look at this team, honestly, I think they're looking at Matthew Golden because you need someone to come in and replace the receiver. I think they might take a chance at waiting for Luther Burden, try to get him later. But Matthew Golden, I think, to me, comes into that offense with last year's early pick, the guy that got shot, Ricky Pearsall.
Mm-hmm. Pearsall.
Okay. So you got to think about that offense because Brock Purdy needs weapons.
Yeah, badly.
That was on full display last year.
Now, if they wait for round
is he going to be there or not?
If they wait for round 2, and where were they picking in round 2, Zach?
43.
43. Here's a name from Ole Miss that I think could potentially still be there, and a guy that has the tools to be a phenomenal one. Will he still be there is my question. Trey Harris.
I think Trey Harris will still be there.
Well, yeah, he's not going nowhere.
I think you got to take Johnson here. You made all of the points you made are excellent, but I still think you got to take Johnson here.
I think so too, man.
Yeah, all you got to think about is
unless
this one
if you're
thing.
trading back.
No, I don't think they trade back. But they think about this one thing, just this one thing alone. Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams. That alone is scary. I think the Rams win the division again this year. But
not to mention that you got Kyron in the backfield. And it's defense even in a post-Aaron Donald world.
Yeah, but I'm not. I look at the Niners. They need another cornerback out there that's going to be able to cover Devontae. Will Johnson.
That's why I said they need a corner because they're going to struggle on offense. Because Brandon Ayuk may not be back in time. You already lost. Eagles gone.
I still can't believe they paid him.
Yeah. And what happened? He got paid and went down. He didn't really do much when he got paid.
Yeah, and he was out of shape, truthfully,
Yeah.
when he came back in the beginning. So we're all in agreement, I think, here. I think it's looking like Will Johnson.
Yep.
Yeah.
Will Johnson for me.
All right, Will Johnson.
The Dallas Cowboys are on the clock.
This is going to be interesting. I'm not even going to type them in yet because I think Zappy's going to do something crazy and trade.
No, I'm not gonna come up with my own trade because I can go bring the trade that I want exactly to happen, but I'm not gonna do it. If you guys want to propose a trade to me, by all means, but I'm not gonna just go out there and do it. But no, look, Dallas is in a prime position, man. Look, I want Dallas personally. The way the draft is falling, I want them to trade back.
Right.
Which doesn't make sense though, because we have 10 picks already this year, but we only have 3 in the top 100. I want us to orchestrate a trade back with teams like the Broncos and try to get their first, their second, and then a later pick by also giving up your first, your second, and a later pick. So that way you're using your later picks, your compensatory picks, to work your way back up for better picks. So I look at them like there's certain teams I see that I want them to trade back with. If it doesn't happen, then I'm looking at the Cowboys and I'm thinking about we need a lot. But everything that has been happening in the offseason, it makes me tend to believe that it's going to be Matthew Golden. But with Jerry's report today, that's the first time I have seen Jerry Jones ever be this serious about the NFL draft. I was like, oh my God, he's actually talking football.
When he said what he said today about things working or whatever, I was like, is he serious?
He's serious.
He's a lot more serious as opposed to that all-in comment.
I think he's serious
because that's his all-in, his version of all-in. We did this 2 years ago when we went out and got Brandon Cooks and Stephon Gilmore. We've done this many times. Jerry likes to go for guys that are in their second half of their contract, whether it's a rookie deal or later. That has been Jerry's MO for a very long time. I would not be one bit surprised, gentlemen, if Jerry works out a trade with Detroit for Jameson Williams for a third-round pick, putting themselves in position to go either Shamar Stewart, Mike Green, or trading back and trying to get James Pierce later, or Walter Nolan. The 3 names that Dallas is linked to the hardest are Matthew Golden, James Pierce, and Nolan, the guy from Ole Miss. And I think it's going to be interesting, man. Dallas to me is in a really weird position because I think it's going to be receiver. But the reason why I think we're going to trade for Jameson Williams is because if Matthew Golden and Ted McMillan are off the board when Dallas picks, we're going to trade back a team like Denver to get their 20, Cortland Sutton, a team like Detroit to get their 28, 30, their 28, their 56, and a receiver because we know the Lions need it. But as it is the way it is.
Yeah. Why are you squinting? You see?
No, I was reading on the bottom.
Oh. He was like,
I have a theory. All right. I mean, the funny thing about where you're picking too is that you have the ability to keep so many guys in the state that they played college in. Just throwing one at you, even though you guys do have a decent tight end, Colston Loveland would give you guys the most talented tight end you've had since Jason Witten, and that would be interesting.
I don't think that pick will go over well for Dallas fans.
No, it wouldn't.
Because all right, here, I'm going to give you 3 names. Mozzie Smith, University of Michigan.
I remember when you guys drafted him. We were on the phone.
Yeah, Taco Carlton, University of Michigan.
God.
Our tight end, Schoonmaker, that we drafted a couple years ago in the second round, University of Michigan. We have not had success drafting Michigan products, whether we're using them incorrectly or whatever the case may be. It's just one of those that I don't think will do. Like Mason Graham scares me because I think he's a great defensive tackle, but for some reason I think he would not have a good career in Dallas. I don't know why. But no, I don't think that pick would go over well. I think it's receiver. Honestly, I think it's receiver. And if those two are not available, they trade back and try to trade for Cortland Sutton or Jameson Williams.
So you believe it's if you stay and put it, you believe it's Matthew Golden?
If Matthew Golden is there on the board, I think the pick is Matthew Golden. If he's gone, I really believe we trade back and we try to trade for a receiver. Because after that, it's Emeka. After that, you have Emeka Ibuka, which that's someone I want Dallas to do. I want Dallas to trade back to 20 with the Broncos, get their second round pick, get a later pick, and then trade away one of your later picks, and draft Emeka Ibuka. I would be so happy with that. There's talks that we're going to trade back to 20 for Cortland Sutton and then draft Amari and Hampton. I don't necessarily want that, but I would want Matthew Golden here if he's on the
Golden.
board.
Yeah, I think Golden
might be a Bronco.
To put Golden on the other side of I forgot his name. CeeDee Lamb. Oh my goodness, man.
And Matthew Golden said it himself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, for Dallas, we need a guy that can spread the field.
Yeah,
that's what Brandon Cooks was supposed to do, but he got older. Matthew Golden was not used that way in Texas. He was not used to spread the field. He said it himself. He's like, I wasn't used to run the ball, to run deep routes the whole game. Yeah. Like, the guy's a very good route runner. He's a Steve Smith kind of player.
And that's what he does, right?
And I think he would complement CeeDee so much because now you can move CeeDee around even more. You have two guys that are good in the slot. You have an X in Matthew Golden where he could play. I mean, you have so many ways you can utilize him.
And look at what CeeDee does. Just CeeDee being CeeDee, man. It's like, golly, man, you have to have a man over and under because he will. I mean, you can't let him get behind you, dude. Mm-mm. And you bring in Matthew Golden, man. Freaking CeeDee's gonna run wild, dude. Mm-hmm. It's gonna run wild. And CeeDee can run cross. He can run. And the same with Golden. He can run across, he can run straight down. I mean, so, golly, I'm going with Golden with that one. Before Miami gets.
You made mention that you might be signing out a little early, not feeling the best.
Yeah.
All good, bro.
All right. I want to see what Miami
I was just saying to Zappy in our private chat, I'm like, I think we're going to have to do round 2 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, look here.
I'm like, we just burned an hour in already. We're on pick. We're not even halfway through.
Yeah, I'm gonna sign out, you guys. Keep me updated on the picks. Round 2 tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll post them.
Hell yeah, I want to see it. I think this is a good idea what we're doing too, man. I like this.
Hell yeah. Idris, feel better, bro.
All right, man. I'm out, y'all.
Yeah, get some rest, bud.
All right, bro.
All right, we are up to pick 13.
The Miami Dolphins.
Ooh.
I think the pick is very easy for Miami. You're already talking about trading Jalen Ramsey, or they've agreed to look for a trading partner. Your other cornerbacks gotten older. You wanted Will Johnson to fall.
The same school is about to send another player into the league, I think.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's Jahdae Barron. I mean, I think Jahdae Barron is going to come fill a huge hole in the Miami Dolphins secondary. You could look at them going a big on the defensive line and Derek Harmon, but I think Jahdae Barron fills a bigger need at this time.
No, I tend to agree. I think that's got to be what it is.
Yeah, that was pretty easy. Which brings us to the team that's pissed off at the world. They wanted Tyler Warren. They tried to orchestrate some trades. They couldn't get a buyer. So now we have the Colts on the line. This is a team that obviously they went out. They got Daniel Jones. You need to bring in some more weapons for them offensively, whether it's Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones, whoever the case is. They've got some good young receivers that are coming up in the league with Michael Pittman. I look at this team, man. I think for them, I think they still have to go tight end here.
Yep. And most mocks had them going that route. In some mocks,
just makes
Warren would have dropped, not in this case. You know where we're going here.
Yeah, exactly. So I think either way, the Colts, you have your 1A, 1B. Their 1A is Tyler Warren, 1B is going to be Colston Loveland. They should end up with one of those players. And it's going to help fill a huge need and take a lot of pressure off of those quarterbacks. Obviously, AR, he runs a lot, gets hurt by week 3. DJ is getting that fresh start that, honestly, I think this is going to be a good fresh start for him.
No, I agree. I think DJ is going to do all right with these guys.
Yeah, so we're agreement here. Colston Loveland to the Indianapolis Colts.
Now we're talking faster because we've done so much analysis with the first 10, 12 picks. Now the hardest part's going to be just typing fast.
Well, now with the Falcons on the board at 15, I mean, here's a team that they need
Remember
help.
last year they didn't get the pass rusher because they got Penix?
Yeah, but they did trade for one.
They did trade for one.
That's actually the direction I'm thinking this team needs to go.
Or you get a great offensive lineman to spring that running game.
I don't even know how we had Membois fall to 15.
It happens.
Yeah, it does.
In some mocks that I have done lately, he has been going right around 15, 16, sometimes to Arizona.
Yeah, I've seen him go. I've seen Green go. I mean, if Membois there, you go fix that offensive line. Michael Penix, his knee's still recovering, in my opinion. You need to protect him. You need to protect your future.
And this is the other caveat to why taking Membois makes sense. Most people's blind side is based on the left tackle. But in this case, it's the right tackle because it's a lefty.
Yep.
So that makes Membois even more sensible, if you ask me.
No, I agree. I 100% agree with you. So Armand Membois.
That he fell this far, but it is realistic because of positional values for other teams that a guy like
And honestly, 1 second, I got to sneeze. Honestly, I look at what things that can help the Falcons win now. Defensive backs, you lost Will Johnson and Barron. Travis Hunter was not going to fall that far. Edge rushers, they could have gone Shamar Stewart. They can go Mike Green. But, the other guy I would think is Kelvin Banks, a guy that is multidimensional, can play tackle or guard. He might be someone that the Falcons could consider. But because, like you said, Armand Membois falling that far, it's an easy choice.
For some reason, Zappy, I am not seeing Membois up here. I think I may have let me see what I did on draft here.
I've got you, don't worry.
I see what I did. I accidentally sent Membois to the Colts. I never officially picked him on my side. So what we'll do is we'll post your draft.
Okay.
Yeah, so that
way. Gotcha. Yeah, you worry about typing the names, and I'll do the drafting and the trading if you have any ideas. All right, that brings us now to the 16th spot, the Arizona Cardinals. We saw what they did last year. Did they take the correct wide receiver, Marvin Harrison? I think they should have gone with the guy that you guys got, Malik Neighbors, and I thought that before the draft. We all did. They took Harrison. Here we are. We look at the team that when they finally got Kyler Murray back, that offense started getting going. Jonathan Gannon has something building there. But when I think of Jonathan Gannon, obviously the first thing you think about is defense. And I think with this Arizona Cardinals team, things kind of fell into place for them where we know that I think they need to focus on defense, but more importantly, they need to focus on that front seven. I think they could go Mike Green or Shamar Stewart here. I think either one makes a lot of sense for Jonathan Gannon.
I think Green's the pick here.
That's who I think it is as well. I really do think Mike Green. There's just something about Mike Green, man, that it reminds me a lot of DeMarcus Ware.
Mm-hmm.
That smaller school defensive end that just started picking up steam late and stuff like that's what this guy has done. We've seen James Pierce go from a top 10 pick, possible top 5 pick, to now possibly falling out of the second round. And we've seen Mike Green, who at one point was projected to be a 4th rounder, now possibly going in the top 15. Like, I think this guy is climbing up a lot of draft boards personally.
Yeah, I think it's Green too. I like Stewart, but I think Green has a better work ethic. Just my opinion.
I agree. Which brings us to the team that had one of the best quarterback showings in NFL history, putting up so many points with his two amazing receivers, but their defense gave up one more point every time.
Yeah,
Cincinnati
sad but
Bengals. Sad but true with this team. Cincinnati Bengals. When I think of the Cincinnati Bengals team and I think of what they need, there's only one thing they need to draft here, and that's best player available at any defensive position. And I mean, yes, secondary would be the wise choice, but honestly, it's at any defensive position. Is Hendrickson going to come back? Are they going to trade him? What's going on there? Your secondary was depleted last year after free agency from 2023, and we saw them give up so many deep balls. We saw them giving up so many late leads because their secondary was horrible.
I think this is too easy for me. They can still get a quality tackle later. Malachi Starks, you can put him in Mike situations. He can cover. He can hit. He does so much. And he basically is not afraid to give up his body on any play, and he's a very smart player. I'm going Malachi Starks from the Georgia Bulldogs here.
That's exactly.
He fits that kind of violent AFC North. He is just the kind of player that fits.
And that's the other thing. You have to be physical, and that was where I was going to get with. That's been my pick is Malachi Starks. Ever since they lost Jesse Bates, they really lost that guy down the field that can really direct defenses, and Malachi Starks seems like that kind of defender. You said it best. You're going into the AFC North. You need a guy that knows how to play nasty defense. That's all Georgia football is nasty defense. You bring a guy like Malachi Starks into that secondary, I think it fixes a lot of holes right there. You could still get edge rushers, defensive tackles later in this draft, very deep at both positions. But you go out there and you get yourself the best safety and your next step at fixing this defense, I think that is the smartest move. I think Malachi Starks should be the pick at 17.
Now, this is funny, right? Seattle's on the clock. Are they going to be this year's Falcons and reach for a quarterback at pick 18, even though they did sign Sam Darnold short term, who's coming off the best year of his career? If so, two names that come to mind: Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart. There's a lot of other things that this team needs. They did just trade DK Metcalf. They lost Tyler Lockett. There's a changing of the guard because they do believe that they have their number one in Jackson Smith and Jigba, but Jackson to Jackson?
I think if I'm Seattle in this position with the way our draft has played out, if it played out this way, I think they are turning that card in immediately, and they're helping fill two major needs on that offensive line with Kelvin Banks. Seattle, they are that odd team this year. Because we saw what they did. Going out, you bring in Sam Darnold, you trade away DK Metcalf. It's the changing of the guard. You have a very good coach, very good, who's going into his second year. I think you need to go protect your quarterback. You're hoping that a guy like a Matthew Golden
not just Darnold, but who you draft, because you could still draft somebody in round 2.
Yeah. So no, I think the Seahawks were hoping that a guy like Matthew Golden does fall to them. But if it played out this way, I don't think they're hesitating. I think they're getting their card turned in to take Kelvin Banks.
I like it.
Now this is where things are going to get really interesting because we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the clock. They were sitting there hoping, Malachi Starks, he should fall to us. But he didn't.
If they still want to go safety, you can go to South Carolina here. If you want to help your running defense, Walter Nolan is still on the board. Or do you want to enhance the protection of your offensive line? You have some good options as well.
And you really got to look at what window are we exactly in with this Buccaneers team? You know, like
seems like they win the South every year, no matter what's going on.
Yeah, they exactly. But is that enough to go out and actually do more in the playoffs? No. Honestly, I think this is a situation where we're going to see a trade. Will it happen? Maybe, maybe not. But this is just my gut feeling. I think Philadelphia, man, is going to be calling. The Eagles have, I think, 11 or 12 draft picks this year. They're the defending Super Bowl champs. They are clearly in their window right now. They need to go out there, and we saw them lose pieces along their defense as well.
On defense, and this is where you got to replenish it.
Yeah, and I think when I look at this team and I look at the Buccaneers, that's almost a match made because the Buccaneers need more draft picks. You know, and the one guy that really comes to my mind for the Eagles is Jihad Campbell. But I don't know, will the Buccaneers trade back? That's the thing. Because the Bucs, I think, are in a position where they can get one of the things that they need and not be reaching. Shamar Stewart is there for them. But what are you thinking, man?
I thought the player that just went to Cincinnati was the ideal player for them. However, I still think you got to give the defense some love. And I think Jihad Campbell is the next best thing that you could get out of the players available within range right now.
So you think the Buccaneers should go Jihad Campbell and say, no, thank you, Philly?
No, thank you, Philly. We're trying to compete with you, not gift you a better chance, I should say.
And I love it.
As a repeat.
You know, and you think about this Buccaneers team and you think about their Super Bowl victories. One thing they had was great linebacker play.
That guy in the second level of the defense.
Mm-hmm. Levante David, perfect example. Derek Brooks, perfect example. You bring in a Jihad Campbell, you have that guy. That's crazy that we were both thinking. You see why I took bringing up the Eagles, because I think they're going to try to trade up for Jihad Campbell.
But you know what's funny? You know what's funny, Zappy? If it was a different team, not named the Eagles, Tampa would be more privy to make the move. But because it's a team that they might end up seeing in the playoffs in January. Well, because whenever the Eagles and Buccaneers are both good, they usually do run into each other.
I mean, we've seen recent history tell us that it's probably going to happen.
And Tampa has had a decent amount of success against the Eagles, even going back to the Andy Reid era in Philly. Denver Broncos are on the clock. Now, this is interesting. So you were cooking up them as a potential trade candidate with you earlier.
Yeah, and I think the reason why Denver,
where you're going to pick, possibly if you get the right package.
Yeah, and when I look at Denver, to me, there's only two guys that make sense for this team offensively.
Omari and Hampton,
obviously being one of them, and Tyler Warren. And I think if Tyler Warren,
in our draft,
he's drafted.
He's already taken.
Yeah, and I think that's where Dallas comes into play, because if Tyler Warren does fall to us at 12, I think we're going to see a situation where the Broncos are going to trade up with us to try to get Tyler Warren. But, you know, as we saw a couple years ago with Jahmyr Gibbs, the Lions took him at 12 and shocked the world. You know, everyone thought Jahmyr was going to fall into the second round possibly if he got past Dallas. To me, I think this is a Jahmyr Gibbs situation. Broncos couldn't trade up. We know that they need more weapons for Bo Nix, but more importantly, they need themselves a running back. You go out there and you get yourself an Omari and Hampton into that offense, especially after you just lost Williams, who signed with Dallas in free agency. I think Omari and Hampton is going to take a lot off of Bo Nix, and it's going to allow this offense to take another step. And then when you think of Sean Payton, you think of some pretty good running backs that played in the Saints while he was there, you know. So I think Omari and Hampton makes a lot of sense for the Broncos here.
Yeah, I think it's too obvious that it's Omari and Hampton if he's available. And, you know, some mocks have him going as far as round 2, but makes too much sense. He will literally, barring injury, be their best running back since Terrell Davis. He is the total package. Not quite the receiving back that Genty could be, but still. Like when you're talking just traditional north-south, make all the moves, make second and third level defenders pay. this guy has everything.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I mean, he's not your breakaway running back. You know, him and Caleb Johnson are very similar styles, but Amari and Hampton, I think, in this type of offense would succeed at a very high level. But this would be a guy that would probably be getting 1,200 yards rushing, 400 yards receiving type of guy. You know, I think this is a good back, a good system fit. Right there, Bo Nix, man, that is a huge plus. So we're going to Amari and Hampton here at 20.
Yeah, and this is where it could get interesting too, because you have a Pittsburgh Steelers team that really doesn't know who their quarterback is, because Aaron Rodgers has been keeping them in limbo, but he also gave them the green light not to wait for him because he's not 100% sure what the hell he wants to do. Is this where the Steelers take a shot on a guy like a Jalen Milroe, now, of course, we're talking about ceiling, not everything polished, but in a ceiling-based situation, if he gets everything that he could be, could rival a division rival in a Lamar Jackson. So that's something interesting to think about. Would the Steelers pull the trigger on that and bring in Jalen Milroe? Do they wait later and get a Tyler Shaw out of Louisville? What else do the Steelers need if they don't go quarterback here? That's another thing to ask yourself.
You know, when I look at the Steelers team, you got to be thinking about a couple of things. TJ Watt, is he going to stay with you long term? Sounds like they might trade him. Sounds like they might not. But Cam Hayward, he is one step closer to being gone. Yeah. Are you going to trade away your wide receiver? That's who else Dallas is linked to, George Pickens. So it's there's a lot. I look at the Steelers team.
State here if they're going to go the receiver route.
Oh, I think, personally, I think they should go to the Georgia route here. But I don't think it's going to be Mikael Williams. I think, personally, it's going to be Jackson Dart. I really think that,
I will say that in certain drafts he has been mocked there. Not in recent ones I've done, but in previous ones. Not in the last week, but he has been mocked there. And he's kind of under the radar, kind of quiet, not talking about a lot.
And, we saw the Steelers do this with Kenny Pickett. They took the first quarterback. This time they'd be taking the third quarterback in the draft. If it's not Jackson Dart, I think the shocker pick could actually be Tyler Shue, but they're in the first round, maybe
that would be a shocker at 21.
Because he's been climbing up a lot of boards.
If you take away the injury history, he'd be right up there with Shedeur and Cam.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. And then I just think this team goes Jackson Dart. I think this team has Jackson Dart on the radar. I think that's a guy that can go all the way as high as number 6 or 7 to the Jets. He's got such
it's possible.
We don't know where he's going to go. And I think if he falls to the Steelers, it just makes too much sense.
The Los Angeles Chargers are on the board. And if you ask me, I like what Coach Jim Harbaugh did last year, making them a more physically sound team, sound blocking, very stingy defense. However, they have lost some talent in the running back room. I still think it's a little too early to go running back here. I think some of these dudes are going to be in round 2. What else do they need? They definitely could use a receiver. Over the course of the last couple of years, they've lost a big identity in that receiving room. However, rookie Ladd McConkey going to year 2 now, very successful year 1. I think you got to be tempted to go receiver here if you're the Chargers.
I look at the Chargers. You got to go receiver, but I mean, yeah, there's a Emeka Egbuka you can go with right here. You also got to consider taking an edge rusher, in my opinion. You lost Bosa. I do feel like there's a team that should go look at an edge rusher. The light bulb's
going off in my head, dude, and the fact that he's still on the board, now it's a no-brainer. You have to take Shamar Stewart.
Yeah, it's Shamar Stewart. It makes too much sense. You need to go get your next edge rusher out there. If you can't orchestrate a trade back, you go edge or you go Emeka here. I think they got to go defense personally, whether it's Shamar Stewart, Derek Harmon, they got to go. You got to get pressure on Patrick Mahomes.
And the gap is closing.
Oh, it's
Believe it or
closing.
not. The gap is actually closing where it's a little more believable that the Chargers could compete with the Chiefs. Because the Chiefs, they're getting older.
Yeah. Here in this position, man, with the Packers on the clock, I wish we would have talked to John and asked him who are some guys he wants.
Mm-hmm.
I look at the Packers. Oh, there's another player, Jair Alexander. That's another player Dallas is linked to. So we're linked to a couple of cornerbacks, a couple of receivers. Anyways, are the Packers going to move on from Jair Alexander? I could see it happening.
I'll tell you the perfect player for Green Bay if they go that route.
Who's
the
that?
Perfect player in my estimation, even though I know you're a big Trey Amos guy, I think it's Siobhan Ravel, because I think being that he played in such a small place in college, but he has that winner's mentality, I think Green Bay could be the kind of city that could work for him.
I like Siobhan Ravel, but my only problem with him is he missed a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing I have with him.
And
But
that's the thing that separates him from like the creme de la creme of the corners in this draft.
yeah, no question. Another guy I think that, honestly, I think if this guy was still on the board when the Packers came up to pick, I think they're running to the podium to get him. He's an edge rusher. He's out of the University of Georgia. When I think of Green Bay Packers and great linebackers and so, does Mikael Williams look like he could be that next great guy? Can he go over there and be on the other side of Rashawn Gary? I think so. I think Mikael Williams actually –
he does make sense.
He makes a lot of sense. I think if the Packers are in this position,
it does make sense.
And the other one is a DB. He played in the SEC. Maxwell Harrison, cornerback out of Kentucky. I think that's another guy that they could be looking at. But I think if Mikael Williams is there on the board, I think they got to go Mikael Williams, man.
Especially when you consider how successful at the point of attack that Vikings offensive line was last year against the Packers, really neutralizing them.
Yes.
I'm with you, Zappy. I think I like the pick. Mikael Williams out of Georgia. I mean, how many times when you're talking about the defensive side of the ball do you really go wrong if you go to Georgia? Let's be honest. I think it's a quality pick.
Yeah, you're not lying, especially as of late under the Kirby Smart era. Like, that college is what Alabama was defensively. Like, that's all they're going to produce is NFL talent. We see the Eagles, why they're drafting constant Georgia players and signing them as undrafted free agents.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. Get them for that extra bargain. Minnesota Vikings, Green Bay's rival is on the clock. This is a team last year that the O-line really impressed me. What also impressed me with them was their defense just played so good as a unit. And they didn't have necessarily the star power, but as a unit, these guys were really terrific last year. But if I'm looking for places that they could potentially improve, you got some quality safeties on the board right now. Quite a few. I think a lot of these safeties are ultimately going to end up in the front and middle of round 2, even into round 3. But this could be a place where the Vikings want to enhance what they are already a decent secondary room. I would potentially consider going safety here, potentially. I don't think they go offense here, unless if they decide that they want to get younger at the running back position. But once again, I think they can wait for that.
Yeah, I don't think offense just doesn't make sense whatsoever. That offense looked good last year. You brought back Aaron Jones. That gives you room to work to get a running back later. You're already good at the receivers. You're
very good at receiver.
You have Hawk there. It wouldn't make sense for them to go offense. Honestly, you could say, no, they traded for an offensive tackle once Darisaw got hurt. This team, to me, has got to be going defense, and I agree with you, Richie. I think they got to be going secondary here hard. I mean, You brought back Harrison Smith, but he's just getting older.
Yeah, he's getting older.
You got to think about his
Still a
replacement.
good ball player, but losing some speed, losing some initial speed out of the blocks.
A lot of things. Stephon Gilmore, still a free agent, was at the start today in Dallas, did not sign. You can go cornerback here. You got to think about replacing him. They've been going the route of using the older player. Patrick Peterson's another perfect example of an older guy that played under that organization for a little bit. Personally, man, I think they got to go safety here. You got to go get that guy that can drop back into coverage or rush the passer if need be. I think you know where I'm going with this. So we're going back to the SEC. That's me. I don't know about you. Nick Immanwori. How about yourself?
He's the best of what's there. You can argue about Watts and Winston and Mukaba, but South Carolina offers the best player out of these 4 or 5 right now. So, yeah, I have to agree with you. I have no choice.
Yeah. And, when you look at the safeties, I mean, Xavier Watts, I'm a huge fan of. I'm actually hoping that's a guy that Dallas can take in the second round.
Oh, yeah. I love whenever my team drafts a Notre Dame player. That's always a double win.
And then Andrew Mukaba, another safety out of Texas. I think he's a guy that you'll be able to grab in the second and possibly even the third round. So I think if you're in the position right now as the Minnesota Vikings, you go out there, get the best player available. And to me, I think you got to take Nick Immanwori and help out that secondary, and also for the now and for the future.
Makes sense, dude. Makes sense. Houston Texans around the clock. This could be where you go try to get really rich at a place where you tried to get rich, but it didn't work out exactly how you wanted. I would strongly consider getting a wide receiver here if I'm the Houston Texans. I really mean that.
Yeah, and I think you've seen it as much as I've seen it. Emeka Egbuka is a guy that's been getting mocked a lot to this team. They did go out and trade for Christian Kirk, giving up a 7th round pick, which that's
which you basically got him for free.
For free, yeah. I mean, you do take on the contract, but still, when I look at this Texans team, I think you got to go two ways. Personally, I think you got to go wide receiver, or you traded away your starting left tackle in Laramie Tunsil to the Commanders, or you have to go offensive tackle here. I don't think they can go wrong either way. I think it could be Emeka Egbuka, or it could be Josh Simmons here, personally.
I think they take the skill position here. I think they're going wide receiver.
It makes sense, man, because you have CJ Stroud.
The Stephon Diggs thing blew up in their face, and then you had the very unfortunate Tank Dell injury late in the year in KC. I think they got to keep that receiving room healthy. I think that's the way they go.
Yeah, and Tank Dell, he looks like he's going to be missing the 2025 season. You still have
very unfortunate.
Very, very. I mean, a good thing is you still have one of the top young receivers, Nico Collins there. Get him that guy that can line up at the slot and really open things up. I mean, Emeka Egbuka does not get enough credit because his name is not Jackson Smith and Jigba, or his name is not Marvin Harrison, but that guy has been a do-it-all receiver for Ohio State ever since he got there. I agree. I think the Texans should take Emeka Egbuka here and, really get CJ Stroud that weapon.
Yeah, and CJ Stroud a step back after quite the rookie year, so big year for him for his career trajectory. Los Angeles Rams, who I consider a Super Bowl contender, are on the clock. I love what they have done with their defense. Offensively, you don't need a receiver when you consider that you have Devontae and Puka Nacua, even with Cooper Kupp no longer in the mix. However, I am intrigued to see if they try to enhance their offense at tight end. And you got some studs on the board here. You got Mason Taylor out of LSU. You have Harold Fannin Jr. out of Bowling Green. I like Terrence Ferguson, but I think Terrence Ferguson is more of a second rounder. I love Elijah Arroyo. I think he's also a second round talent. And you have other guys that do a few things great, but not the whole package just yet. Mason Taylor out of LSU definitely intrigues me. And if you're staying on the offensive side of the ball, How do you feel about the Rams' offensive line? Do you think that's a place that they should try to improve now or wait a little bit?
I think in their
Matthew
situation,
Stafford, given his age and injury history, is the reason I bring that up.
No, I think in their situation currently, even though they traded away Austin Jackson, I think they're a team on their offensive line is just fine, to be honest with you. And I look at this team and I look at the tight end position. Yeah, they can go that way, but I mean, are they really going to risk it, like reach at this position? This is a team that, in my opinion, like you said, is Super Bowl ready.
Oh, yeah,
they were the only team in the 2024 playoffs that gave the Philadelphia Eagles any type of trouble, any type whatsoever.
Were it not for that false start, I believe that opportunity for Philly to get in fresh lungs on the field really saved their asses.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, how can I not agree to that? It's a fact. But I look at this Rams team, man, and it's like, what's the position you really need to address? And
I think defensively on the interior, they're solid right now.
They
I think get a little more athletic in the linebacking room, if you ask me.
Yeah, and I think that, I think honestly they're looking at probably trying to get a Jihad Campbell in there. But if he's taken by the Buccaneers, or if the Eagles do jump in front of him to grab him, I think they're almost left with no option. But they got to go defensive back.
But if they stay at linebacker, this is a bit of a reach because I view him as more of a second-round talent. But he already has ties to the city. Carson Schwessinger could be a very interesting pickup, albeit a bit of a reach. Now, if you're going into the secondary, you've got some talent back here, whether it's safety or corner. Could this be where our man Xavier Watts lands?
No, I mean, for me, I think if they're going to go anywhere, if they're going to go defense, I think it's going to be cornerback. I think this is a place where, Siobhan Revelle could actually drop to, because the Rams, they don't really make the splash picks, but they will make those picks that, Trey Amos makes sense. I think it's a 3-horse race.
Coachable.
Yeah. No, I think it's a 3-horse race here. I think it's between Maxwell Harrison, Siobhan Revelle, and Trey Amos to go to the Rams here. Just when I think about this team, what they need, they're a win-now team. You need a starter in that secondary. I would say it's between one of those 3 players.
And if I had to pick between the 3 for this particular team, I'm probably going Siobhan Revelle here.
That's the direction I'd be leaning. Siobhan Revelle to the Rams. I like that pick.
All right. Just bear with me as I type this in.
No, I got you, man. I think this next pick is going to be a rather easy one for us. It's the Baltimore Ravens here at 27. We saw what this team has done. They year in and year out, they've turned into kind of, dare I say, the Cowboys of the AFC. They just succeed, very, very high expectations met, let you down in the playoffs. Ravens, I don't care what people say, we have a 3-time MVP. This year should have been his 3rd-time MVP, not last year. But, I look at this team. I almost feel that it should have been Josh last year, Lamar this year. I do agree with that, actually. Yeah. No, so it's like, I look at this team. I think it's pretty simple for them. Continue to have that offensive line ready to go, or they can go defensive and they can go secondary. They can go edge. They can go defensive tackle.
I think it's either a guard or a corner here. And if
it's a guard,
it has to be Josh Simmons. It has to be.
I was going to say Tyler Booker, because isn't Josh Simmons is labeled as a tackle? I thought.
Let's see how they're pinning this here.
At least a lot of what I've seen, it's been Tyler Booker as guard.
Yeah, they have him still given his. They still feel that he could be. Because I know certain guys, based on positional value, were getting suggested to. Yeah, it's Booker if you're going guard. It's Booker.
Yeah, I think that's the smartest way. Is if anything, your offense is going to go through Lamar and Derek, so keep that offensive line intact and go.
Yeah, and the Ravens found out that they have quite the 3rd down specialist last year too. So they got a good thing going. Still very much window open. Same thing with the Buffalo Bills. but they have got to beat the Chiefs, and nobody has been able to do that in the AFC for a very long time. But definitely interesting to see how this plays out. Because, these guys are winning MVPs left and right, but they just cannot get over that hump, that proverbial hump. They can't do it, or haven't yet.
That might be the era of football we're in now. Well, no, because Patrick Mahomes has won multiple Super Bowls, so. But that brings a very interesting team on the clock.
Mm-hmm.
We had Tyler Booker go to the Ravens at 27. We had Siobhan Ravel go 26. We've been really all over the place. I love it. There's no consistency. The Lions, man, it's obvious. We all know what they need. We all know what they want. They need an edge rusher. They went out and traded for Zadarius Smith as soon as Aiden Hutchinson went down.
Now, is Zadarius Smith still under contract with these guys?
No, he's a free agent right now.
Okay. So going edge here could make a lot of sense. I do believe their secondary could also use some help. And if they surprised us and went to the other side of the ball, what do they possibly need there? Do you consider going to get another running back because of the injury to David Montgomery last year and how well they did that two-back system better than anyone last year?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
If they were to get another running back, I still think it's too early for that. I think that's something you do in round 2 or 3.
For Detroit, I mean, you still have both running backs, don't you?
You do, but are they worried about Montgomery's long-term health?
No, because I think Jahmyr Gibbs can handle the load of being an every down back. He's still young in his career that you don't really have to worry about that. He has no wear on the tires.
From a positional value, they don't need this. But when I say to myself, if they could get another tight end, like a straight stud, But no, after what happened last year, you got to get serious on the other side of the football. Because when you saw what the Washington Commanders were able to do to them, and the Buffalo Bills in the regular season, what they were able to do to them.
Yeah, they still need some help. And you also got to think to add on with getting a guy at receiver tight end. Are they going to trade Jameson Williams in the next 24 to 48 hours? That's a big one. If they are, that's a huge need now. But, they do have all these weapons on the offense. Oh, man, I think they got to go edge, man. I really do think this Detroit team is going to be trying to trade up to go get one of the premier edge rushers in this year's draft.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think the match made in heaven right here is James Pierce. I think he makes a lot of sense in Detroit. Yeah. I just think that James Pierce fits more of what Dan Campbell and that organization does. That's just me. But I think if I'm Detroit, it's James Pierce. It's got to be.
Yeah, because and Hutch, you got to take your time with him.
That guy's already running sprints and everything, dude. That dude is cutting.
It's almost like he's the kind of player where it's almost like you got to protect him from himself.
From himself, yeah.
Same thing with a player like a McCaffrey. Certain guys, they play through all kinds of stuff that lesser men wouldn't even consider. And I do give a lot of respect to that kind of player. But like anything else, it's scary. It's scary because some of these injuries, and I attribute a lot of it to the way that the preseason is down. It is just so much different.
Yeah, the preseason is now the first 4 weeks of the season.
Yes, sir.
It's it's unfortunate the way it's played like that, but it is what it is, No,
for sure. Washington Commanders on the board. And it's funny, we're talking about the Lions, the team that deaded them last year. That was not a big shock to me per se, or maybe not even you, but it was a shock to a lot of people last year.
They were not a shock to me. I've been calling for them for the last couple of years.
But defensively, this team has some holes as well.
Yeah, and they let Jonathan Allen go. That's a huge goodbye.
I tend to agree.
You need an edge rusher on this defense. You drafted God, what was his name out of Ole Miss? I can't remember. It'll come to me eventually. But you drafted him to be your next cornerback, and he just never worked out.
Mm-hmm.
This team, in my opinion, when you look at the Washington Commanders, you've got to be looking defense. Another one of those teams. Could you look receiver here? I think you could still get a number 3 receiver later. Like you
can
brought
go
in
edge, or you could go defensive tackle here.
Yes, and that's where I was going to go with. I mean, you let Jonathan Allen go, but Derek Harmon and Walter Nolan are both on the board. And Derek Harmon, this is where it's interesting. If it plays out this way, is Washington going to pick someone to keep them from falling to someone else?
That happens sometimes. And
I think Derek Harmon, if he were to slip this far, the Eagles are starting to salivate because I think they're going to go defensive line or defense also, but defensive line would not shock me one bit.
And this is where a team like Washington has to prevent that from happening.
Yeah. Is Washington going to let that happen? Because they already have I think Washington wanted James Pierce.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Detroit Lion. When I look at that,
you got to have the next best contingency.
Yeah. And the Commanders, they're in their window. Let's be real about it. They're in their window.
They are. And they're very young.
Very, very young. You got a rookie on a I think you got to go Derek Harmon here. Go keep building that defense. And, the only thing I don't like with him is what will Dan Quinn ask of him? Is Dan Quinn going to ask him to lose 15, 20 pounds? Is he going to try to get him to Walter Nolan's weight? But no, I think Derek Harmon, it makes a lot of sense here for Washington.
I might be wrong here with the Buffalo Bills. I do think it's a moderate reach based on mock positioning versus. But this is the thing. If you ask me what is a weakness of the Buffalo Bills or a place that they can get better, I'm going to say the middle of their defense, the linebackers. They're good, but they're not great, and they have slowly gotten old. Matt Milano, great player, hurt a lot. Last year, Von Miller, a shell of himself. He could turn it up on certain downs, but not, consistently like he did. If I'm the Buffalo Bills here, I've got to consider grabbing a linebacker here. I think James Cook on the other side, running back, really took a lot of leaps last year. I mean, you could go receiver. You could. But I personally think that that receiving room is in a healthy place right now, and they can probably add more talent later in the draft. I'm strongly considering going linebacker here.
Yeah, I look at this Bills team. You brought Tre'Davious White back. Does that take them out of the cornerback market? I don't think so. I think they could still go out and get a Trey Amos or a Maxwell Harrison to come start immediately. When you look at their defensive line, they can go Walter Nolan
or Kenneth Grant.
Or Kenneth Grant. They can go defensive tackle in this position.
I think Kenneth Grant is going to have the more prosperous career out of the two Michigan tackles, and that might be a little bit of a bold statement considering that the other one went in the top 5, or is always projected to go in the top 5.
Yeah, and they can go Carson Schwarzenegger, or I think they can wait and go after a Bear Carter or Demetrius Knight even later.
The only knock on Carter's game, it's not even his game, it's just physical. He's a little short for the position. And that does worry teams at the pro level. Chris Paul is a beast. Knight Jr. is a beast. I love Mondone Jr. from Georgia, but these are all guys that you could have in round 3. Well, not necessarily Carson Schwarzenegger, but the other guys.
No, I agree. I think, honestly, if I'm Buffalo, oh, man, I think they got to go, in my opinion, I think they got to go secondary here. That's a tough one, man. They can go many different ways. I think Buffalo's in a good position. Yeah.
Yeah, you could go corner here. You could go Amos. You could go safety here. You could go Watts. And I must admit that in a lot of mocks, Watts has ended up in Buffalo. I'm going to go Trey Amos here. My personal opinion, I think it's Trey Amos.
That's the direction I was leaning. I've seen a lot of mocks for the Bills, and it's going between 4 different cornerbacks, but the consistency has been cornerback. We know they need help in the secondary. I think that makes the most sense. You get the best player available at that position, and you're good to go.
No, I like it, bro. I like it. Now we are up to the runner-ups last year, the Kansas City Chiefs. It's weird to call them the runner-ups.
I know, right?
Kind of weird.
It's something
about the kind of run they've been on.
Yeah, it's only something we get to do once every 5 years, or 4 years, whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm tired of them. Just keep me a buck. I'm tired of them. I have a lot of respect for what they've accomplished, but I'm just tired of them.
This is an interesting team.
Yeah.
This is an interesting team because, I look at them. We know they're a win now team. They've been in the Super Bowl the last 3 years. We know they have all their off the field issues with their specialists, Rashee Rice.
Yeah, they have not been blessed with getting lucky at the skill positions and avoiding conflicts.
Yeah. When I look at this team, I think there's really only one answer that makes sense. I mean, you traded away Joe Thuney. You have to pay a different offensive lineman. You got to protect Patrick Mahomes. That guy was running for his life the entire Super Bowl. It was possibly worse than when Joe Burrow was running for his life against the Rams, It was bad. I think if I'm the Chiefs in this position, I think you've got to go offensive tackle here, and you got to go solidify that offensive line, keep it in buck, because you have good everything else. You have good receivers. Rashee Rice is going to be coming back off that ACL injury. You have one of the best tight ends to ever play the game. You have a good backup tight end as well. You have good running backs. Pacheco came back. This team, I think they just got to keep that offensive line in place.
Or they go Josh Simmons or Josh Connerly if you go that route.
Yeah, and
Seri has dropped 30 picks since the mocks opened in the beginning, where he was in the top 22. He's dropped considerably.
It's crazy.
And
I saw
Sambo is not even really a tackle at the pro level. He's probably going to be an interior or a center, probably a center.
Yeah. There's one thing that I don't like about Connerly. You know what it is?
Mm-mm.
Senior Bowl week, during the practices, there was highlights of him going up against Mike Green.
Okay.
A guy who we had drafted earlier in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Green made him look absolutely childish.
Really?
He was beating him off the snap. He was overpowering him. His finesse moves, Connerly, which is all over the place. That made me worry about him. That one little clip, and I'm like, gosh, because it's easy to play offensive line when you have your brothers to the left or right of you, But when it's your one-on-one,
you could be man on an island for sure.
Yeah. I think they got to go Josh Simmons in this position. I think Connerly would be the pick because Josh Simmons probably is going to get drafted earlier. But if Josh Simmons is here, I think you got to go Josh Simmons.
I've even considered that they could go interior here, but I do think that the tackle position is a little more important at this juncture. But I'll tell you what, there's going to be some phenomenal guards around too.
And just a side note, I don't think the Eagles are going to be picking at number 32. I think they are going to be trading up.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Zappy. The Eagles always find a way to manage that. But since we're here, we'll assume that they are for now. So let's see. Eagles at 32. They're going defense, bro. They have to go defense. I'll tell you the player that I would take since he's still on the friggin' board. I wouldn't even bat my eyes. It's Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss.
Yeah, that's what I'm fearing, is that Walter Nolan falls.
I hope somebody else snags him before they do. I'll tell you that right now. That's like getting 2 players.
And that's one of my theories, I believe, with Dallas and Detroit, is if Dallas trades back with Detroit to get Jameis Williams, their number 28, and second, whatever the case may be, then at 28, we would take Walter Nolan. Because I know we're linked to him. And I would not mind Walter Nolan one bit at 28. If Dallas traded back, came back with Jameson Williams and Walter Nolan, and still had their second-round pick and another second-round pick, I'd be very happy with that. Like,
He's
I'd
a
be
hell of
very ecstatic.
He's a hell of a talent. And you know
Yeah,
what's
no,
funny?
this.
You know, like when we're hanging at home watching this shit on TV, and we're like, damn, man, I love the draft, but it takes so damn long. This puts in perspective. And I give you respect, bro. You know, I like what we're doing here because we're not just flinging out names, talking some caca. Like, we have studied a lot over the course of the last year, even 2 years going back,
I'm
for
always
guys
like,
that are coming out now. You know, it's no secret that you know, football is the most detailed coverage that we do on this show. I mean, we love the NBA, we love all sports, but Zappy, good job. This was a fun one.
it is. And, you know, I know you already said we're going to continue round 2 tomorrow, you know, but some of the interesting storylines for round 2 is, you know, you have the first pick, you have the Browns. Which direction are they going to go? You know, they can go quarterback, receiver. They can go so many different ways. Your Giants, you traded back. You got yourself your future quarterback.
Yeah, dude. Both the
Equity.
Browns and the Giants have flirted with the idea of
Yeah, and
trading out of their spots.
and you have
They have made it clear that they're fielding offers.
And you have 2 picks in the next 8 picks. Giants can make some noise.
And I think it's the opportunity to do so because as much as I love Abdul Carter, as much as I admire Travis Hunter, and even though I'm not as high on Shador as I am, I'm wise enough to know it is a pass first, pass happy league. And without a franchise quarterback, you're always going to be behind the pack. And if you can capitalize on teams that are thirsting for one particular player, you can really do wonders for your draft and for your team's trajectory. So I would not be the least bit surprised if my guys trade backwards. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if we do like a mini fallback and trade with Brett's boys. That would be interesting. And I think it's also very feasible.
We've seen
the
it
only
year in and
negative
year
thing
out.
about this show today is I'm using my little man's computer because mine is under construction. Mine's actually in North Carolina, Idris. He's doing some work on it. But this steel chair, bro, it's about time to stand up.
I hear that.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I was really like soldiering through about 9 picks ago, and I was like, man, you know, I'm getting at that age now where you know you get little sciatica and stuff. I'm like, oh boy.
No, I know what you mean.
But we've got tomorrow. We've got round 2. Zap, do me a solid. Screenshot your work on your side because I did make a boo-boo on one particular pick here, and that way we can post it to the show.
I won't be able to do that until we complete the second round.
Okay.
Because it's not, you know, it doesn't give you the results until the actual draft is over.
That's correct.
So, and if I need to, I'll just go mocking random players.
The only thing that you could do, I believe, is just go to.
I know what I'll do.
What already happened.
I know what I'll do. I'll just open up another one and do a 1 round, and boom.
Whatever works for you, kid.
I got it.
Great show tonight, Zappy. I'll see you tomorrow, bro. Actually,
yes, sir. I know, right? Shoot. All right, buddy. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks for watching, everyone. If you haven't already, please make it a point, like, and subscribe to the channel, the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. Any other fleeting thought? Knicks, get your head out of your collective asses. That's all I got.
Lakers tied it up 1-1 after a big win tonight. The OKC Thunder, they're going to sweep them. They're going to sweep them. The Bucks down 0-2 against the Pacers. That is the shocker for me.
I'm disappointed. I thought the Bucks were going to win that series. You know, they still could, but it's not likely.
Yeah, it's big games tomorrow. Warriors, you know, looking to go up 2-0. I'm excited. I love it. And, hey, man, the draft is in
that I am not
48
surprised
hours.
About.
No one is.
I can't wait for Thursday.
All right,
we
y'all.
are out.